Welcome to the Wiesenberg Perspective, and it was in the Herald this week. Harvey's son, Greg, and there's a new addition to the Wiesenberg family who've brightened the Wiesenberg family, and after the terrible tragedy of losing Brock. So Harvey, talk about the new addition and how it's brightened your life and the Wiesenberg family's life, having a lovely little girl join this world.
God acts in strange ways, but I tell you, it was devastating to lose a loved one because of an addiction. But I want everybody to understand, addiction is a disease. It's a disease, and it's of epidemic proportions throughout the state and this country. But especially in our small city in Long Beach, unfortunately, we've had so many people who have lost their life either by suicide or by overdosing. And it's just a terrible situation that exists that has to be addressed. And the only way to address this, and I want people to be aware, is the fact is that if you have a disease, or even if you have a special child, and God blessed me with an angel, a special child, who could never speak or cry, but gives love. And it's interesting, the love I receive and feel from this special child is like an unconditional love that not many people could ever experience, especially those who don't take an interest. And the same thing holds true for people with addiction. The best thing you can do if somebody has a problem is to give them love and support. There are terms, hard love and understanding, and there are also people who just don't want to be involved, family members. And who needs it more than a person who has a disease? This disease of an addiction is something that can be addressed, and especially supported with love and support that is so necessary for somebody to have and maintain a self-esteem and love of himself. So that's what this is really all about, to make people aware that you have to be a support, love giver to somebody who needs that. That's the best way to try to accommodate the needs to maintain some kind of quality of life. But I want you to know, because a week after my dear grandson, Brock, and I want to just say something briefly about Brock, that I have 6 grandchildren. Brock is the one who cared most about doing things to help others. He was born this way. I believe, like I said, that God put him here for a reason. 31 years old. And when I had him in Albany and I was a chair of drug and alcohol, I introduced him to the commissioner, and all he wanted to do was to be a counselor so he could help other people. An all-American athlete who was admired and respected and loved by anyone who ever met him, ended up with this addiction. And this addiction takes care of your brain and your body. And unfortunately, Brock succumbed. God took him, but he took him, and I thank God. Many people say, are you mourning and sad? I say, no, I celebrate 31 years of happiness and love that I felt from this young man, and what a wonderful person that he was. So that's amazing. But the little baby girl that we have 7 grandchildren now, or had, and she's the second lady girl, a lady baby. And it's such a blessing. She's beautiful, sweet, and her mother, Sajjana, is just an unbelievable lady. But I have to tell you, Sajjana was a Russian national gymnast.
Wow.
And now this baby, 1 week old, when I held him in my arms, she was jumping around. I'm saying, oh my God, she's gonna be a gymnast already. So the happiness that she'll bring to our family will never take a place to the love that we had for Brock. But I want you to know, to love Brock was, to know him was really to love him. And now we have another future star. And God willing, we'll have a long, happy life together.
And Harvey, I love to touch on the book, For the Love of the Child, My Life, My City, My Mission. And it's really a love story of you and your wife Ellen, and your love for Ricky and making a difference with special needs, and all of your wonderful accomplishments of your legendary career of so many years making a difference in public service.
Well, that's another thing and I've said this before, God gave me an angel, a saint, and a mission. The angel is my special child. The saint was my wife, Ellen. for 50 years. God bless us with a happy, happy life together. And my mission, well, God gave me a mission to do what I feel I was born to do and brought up that way with my family, is to help others. So what we do now is dedicate all the resources I can possibly get and try and help others. But it's a gift, and I tell you, the rewards of public service, and I'm saying this to every elected official, the rewards of public service is not power and money. The rewards are the thank yous that you get from the people that you help. And that book, the picture just showed, is Cardinal Dolan thanking me in Albany, which, and I share this publicly, Cardinal Dolan thanked me for the good things that I do. And I said to him, this is as close to God as I'm gonna get. And we both had a little laugh. But the answer really is, you know, that's a good place to be, a house of worship. I think we need a little bit more worshiping and thanking God for the things that we have, and take away the anger and the hate that exists in our society today.
And Harvey, I want to touch on this because, you know, when you read a touching story that is really a miracle, I read this story and I thought of you because you were such a big part of this overall story. It happened 2 weeks ago in Port Jefferson. This fellow was on his boat and he had a heart attack and went into cardiac arrest. And due to the quick response of people in the area, and they came with a defibrillator, they saved his life. And the fact is, Newsday pointed out that only 6% of people that go into cardiac arrest outside of a hospital survive. But due to the fact that someone had a defibrillator, they saved his life. Harvey, you saw a terrible tragedy of a high school athlete who died during a lacrosse game, and it was from your work creating a bill that saved hundreds of lives. So talk about that, because your bill, your initiative has really saved thousands of lives, all because of your work.
Well, let's give credit to the Akampora family. Louis Akampora, 14 years old, Northport, high school student. Parents in the stands watching his first game, got hit in the chest and ended up with ventricular fibrillation. Mouth to mouth, didn't work, they couldn't bring him back, and he died right on that field. And the answer is that we have to have a resource, and the only resource that could solve this problem and help is a defibrillator. So I spoke with the parents. The parents are wonderful people. As a matter of fact, in the very immediate future, they're having a foundation fundraiser for the Akampora Foundation. Louis, as I said, 14 years old, and when I spoke to the family, I said, we're gonna never let this happen again. I was a ball player in my life, and I coached, and I said, you know, we have to be able to make sure that there'll be safe environment for any person as an athlete or as a person employed in a school or a grandparent or a parent, but it has to be there and should be there because the necessity to having this kind of technology present is going to save lives. And it was amazing. In the first year, we saved hundreds of lives all over this state. We made it a bill that every school has to have a defibrillator in it. And then buildings with 1,000 or more. And then it was on buses, and it's on planes, and it's everywhere. But the defibrillators save so many lives. And one experience that I will share with you, because the American Heart Association honored my wife Ellen and myself. And when we were there, we had survivors there who were pronounced dead. We were sitting there with tables with people who were pronounced dead that are alive today because the defibrillator was there to save their lives. And it's just an amazing feeling. But that's what happens when good people think about good things. And that's what government is all about and should be all about. It's all about not power and money, but doing things that'll help people have a quality and a safe life. And that's what we're here to make people aware of, especially government as it exists today.
Absolutely. So Once again, Harvey, you inspire so many people. You've done so much great work in your life, and you're still doing great work. And we think that you're a tremendous credit. And just recently, the clock here in Long Beach. Let's talk about that, you know, you took it upon yourself to make it happen with a clock. Let's talk about that.
Being a former police officer and a PBA president many years ago, I put up a clock. It cost $25,000 as a police memorial, dedicated on that clock, the plaque read, dedicated to those who serve as police officers, who have served and continue to serve as law enforcement police officers in the city of Long Beach. Now, these people are part of my life. With a mixed generation, they had older cops there, some younger cops, and the fact was, living and working with them, working tours, 12 to 8, 8 to 4, 4 to 12, shifting, it became an unbelievable way of life, of learning about life. Because in my life experience as a police officer, I helped save a person's life, a child who stopped breathing, and we brought her back. And that's an interesting story because we gave life. I even had opportunity to help her deliver babies. And that was wonderful, bringing life into this world. But then again, I also had the experience of somebody dying in my arms and seeing how definite a death of a loved one can impede a family, or when 6 months later, or less than 6 months, the other spouse died and caused a death, according to the examiner, broken heart. So you bring life in, you watch life end, but you know what? This is what life is all about. Maybe to make people aware the life of a police officer, because there are life experiences that they're gonna feel that'll never leave their minds. An accident in Long Beach on Monroe Boulevard in Walnut. A person got hit by a car, and the medical examiner, before you can take a body away, had to come down there. And he handed a cup to my friend, a police officer alongside of me, to go and pick the brains up and get them in the cup. Do you think that police officer will ever be the same? Because you can see the consequences of what happens when people violate and break the law. Now, every police officer takes an oath to protect life and property. So these people who I worked with gave me a life experience, who I loved, admired, and respected. Because what a lesson in life when you act as a police officer, and how important they are to maintain a society. What's happening lately? What's happening now? Well, it's kind of scary and frightening because we have the total disrespect. The country is being polarized. We have people out there standing out there and saying, kill a cop, kill a cop. And what kind of a society we have? What is going on here? And how do we have somebody who planned and murdered 2 police officers in the state of New York? And our governor in the state of New York has a parole board. And they let somebody out who murdered 2 police officers out on parole? How can anything like that happen? And that's why I believe in a death penalty. Do I sound like a bad person? No, a death penalty is constitutional. And the answer, what for? If anybody's gonna shoot or kill a cop or anything on a severe murder, that they have an opportunity not to be killed, but to be able to plea bargain and get life without parole. But they should never have that ability to have an ability to be out on the street with their family when they took a life of 2 police officers whose family doesn't have that ability. And it's about time for police to understand that this is not a thing about race, because I want everybody to know black police officers bleed too, and they are brothers, and we work together, black and white. And who is going to be there to maintain a safe society for all of us? If you don't have law enforcement and respect and dignity to our cops, we're really in trouble. And I want you to know we got a new thing in the state of New York. They aren't going to give bail. Yes, the bail system is flawed, but that doesn't mean that a police officer makes an arrest for somebody that commits a crime, and the next day that person's out on the street. And I'm saying, oh, that's all right, because people who don't have bail money can't get out, and people that do have bail money do get out. Well, okay, if there's an injustice, then let's modify that. But let's give the judges who are sworn to uphold the law and give sentences to those who commit crimes and make them aware if this person is safe or not. Not a system that everybody gets out and everybody does what they want the next day. 2 bank robberies in 1 week, arrested, they let him out the next day, another bank robbery. We had a 92-year-old person murdered by somebody out on parole because they didn't have to put money up. There's something wrong with the system. And I live in a small city. Long Beach, there's only 2 cities on Long Island. And I'm talking to my local judges and they're saying, this is a small city, 35,000 people. I know everybody here. I know who's on the school bus. But if this person is a pedophile or a criminal who can do bad things to children or other people, and you have him arrested, and then he's out on the street, I don't want that to happen. And this is coming from a judge who's saying, hey, listen, I know who's going to be on the school bus with my child, and if this guy doesn't belong there, he doesn't belong there because he could commit a crime. The answer really is, let's think about fixing, amending, or correcting, if you will, the injustice about no money, but these are not felonies or crimes that are going to injure or hurt other people. We got to do what has to be done right. And I like people in government, and I know our representative in government is doing everything he can. Our Senator Kaminsky is up there doing the best that he can to get this fixed. But I'm saying this to you and everybody else who is listening. We have to give love and respect. You thank a cop because they're there to protect you and your family. And if you don't have the support of a cop, if there's a terrible thing that happens, where do the police come? They run into a situation where everybody's running out. And they're lifesavers, and they're people who dedicate their life to the health and safety of our families. Support law enforcement, and thank every police officer you see whenever you see them, because they're there to help you and your family. Now the clock.
All right, let's get to the clock.
The clock is a police memorial, as I said before. $25,000, and I told you what it was for. A memorial for those who have served and continue to serve. Well, the clock is broken in front of the railroad station. So people are saying to me, hey, you put the clock here and fix it. I said, I don't fix the clock. The city of Long Beach will fix the clock. Well, they said they can't fix the clock. So I gave some money to help. I said, here's money, fix the clock. They told me now the people don't care anymore. I care. So I said, do whatever has to be done. So I said, before I die, I want you to know that that clock is going to be fixed. And with that in mind, I gave them the money to buy a new clock. And the answer really is, we're going to have a clock, and we are going to have a police memorial. And for anybody's knowledge, I want you to know, I put the police memorial in the state of New York as a state assembly person. Myself and Senator Dare Volker put the memorial wall for those police officers who die in the line of duty statewide. And we celebrate that, and I want it to be celebrated in Long Beach. It's in the first week of May that we will have that clock up here, and it will pay tribute to those who have served and continue to serve as law enforcement officers in our city. So God bless our first responders, and just keep them healthy, safe, and well. And those elected officials who are making decisions, let's think about what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing in regard to the public, the whole public, not any group or specialized where you polarize our government. Let's think about everybody caring and loving each other. That's what government is really all about. And I thank you for this opportunity.
We thank you, Harvey, and that's why he's the icon, the legend, and he's still making a difference, still making it happen, the Harvey Wiesenberg perspective.